Welcome to the 2016-17 school year. My name is Brad Jadarski. I'm the Oshkosh West Activities Coordinator, and I will be narrating you through our 2016-17 Athletic Code Meeting presentation. During the course of this presentation, you will be asked to follow along with the district's Co-Curricular Handbook. It is orange for this year, and I encourage you to have it with you as we begin our presentation. Parents or students, if there's a question at any time about anything covered in this presentation, please feel free to reach me using the email address found on the cover of the Co-Curricular Handbook or by calling my office. That number is also listed on the cover, 424-0143. Or students, you can stop in and see me at any time in my office as I'm located in the high school main office. Please note, competing in athletics is a privilege. It is not a right. There are higher academic and behavioral expectations for student athletes. Remember, students, you are a student athlete and academics come first. The Oshkosh West Athletic Department has developed a vision statement to help guide us in our decision making. Our vision statement is to educate, inspire, and shape the next generation of leaders through commitment, competition, and service to the team, our school, and our community. In many of the materials that you will receive at the eligibility meetings, you will note that one of the items handed out is our vision statement, our core values, and our Wildcat Creed. I encourage you to look those over, live and model those 24/7 during the course of this school year. We have 5 core values for the athletic department. Again, these core values drive our decision making. We are hopeful and expect our student athletes and parents to buy into these core values, to live them and model them as well. Our core values are, number 1, do the right thing. Integrity and honesty in thoughts, actions, and words. 2, strive for greatness. Excellence in academics, athletics, and character. 3, lead with a purpose, selfless commitment to team goals. 4, promote the Wildcat culture, pride in self, team, and school. And 5, raise the bar, inspire others to be their best. We ask our coaches and our student athletes and parents to remember these core values, to model them at all times in everything we do during any of our athletic programs here at Oshkosh West High School. We also developed a Wildcat Creed. Again, that is one of the handouts you will receive at your eligibility meetings. There's a pink and goldenrod copy. I encourage you to read the Creed, and if you are willing to live it, model it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, then sign on that you will do so. It is an optional activity. If you are willing to follow the Creed, turn it in to me, the pink copy, when you turn in your other eligibility materials. I was very pleased that over 85% of our student athletes that participated in athletics last year agreed and signed off to follow the Wildcat Creed. Another emphasis we have here at Oshkosh West is we ask our student athletes to be an 11 or strive to be an 11. And that means doing the right thing all of the time, leading with a purpose, and promoting the Wildcat culture. Being 11 means you go above and beyond in all things that you do during each and every day of your life. This coming school year, we will hope to have another Being 11 character and leadership workshop available for students here at Oshkosh West during the school year. It's been a very successful program for us, and I strongly encourage you to consider participating in that workshop if we have it again later this school year. Also, weight training is something that all of our athletic programs are stressing here at Oshkosh West. Our coaches have gotten together and agreed to buy into a common program for all sports that's tailored to each program's needs. Basically, weight training will become part of practice during your season. We will also strongly encourage student athletes to continue their weight training outside of their athletic season. Again, the core values that we believe weight training stresses are striving for greatness. Hopefully you make it a year-round effort. Raising the bar, encouraging others to do so as well, and leading with a purpose, setting the example as someone who's training hard each and every day of the school year, both during and outside of your season. Again, weight training is one way to help yourself be physically fit to meet the rigors and demands of your athletic season. Again, we have a common program for all sports that are tailored to each program's needs, and during your high school sports seasons, weight training will be an expectation unless you're participating in one of our strength and conditioning classes during the school day. At Oshkosh West, we are very fortunate to have an outstanding athletic trainer to work with our student athletes to help keep them safe. Andrea Kramer is our athletic trainer here at Oshkosh West. She works for Affinity, which has recently merged with another company. Andrea's contact information, both phone and email address, is found on this screen. Please note she is expecting her second child this fall, so we will have another trainer filling in for her while she is gone on leave, and her name will be Ashley Scarda. Again, her cell phone number and email address is found on the screen. And again, I encourage you, if you do have an injury, please seek out one of our athletic trainers in the training room for your well-being to be evaluated. However, keep in mind that if you do have an injury, that's the time to see a trainer. If you're sore, bruised, or whatever, that may not be the time. With only one athletic trainer, the athletic training room can be extremely busy, and therefore, in the fall, especially in spring times of the year, we ask that if you do need to be seen by an athletic trainer, to please be patient. And also, please be sure to thank Andrea and Ashley for the outstanding work they do, as they do a great job keeping all of our student athletes safe here at Oshkosh West High School and getting them back to competing again if they are injured. A number of our next slides are going to talk about athletic training information. Again, Oshkosh West has one athletic trainer provided by Affinity Health System. It's available for after-school hours and sports coverage. Athletic training room hours are daily from 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Other days are available at times based on availability and program need or request. Licensed athletic trainers practice under the discretion and in collaboration with physicians and other healthcare professionals. They evaluate and treat injuries and provide rehab to the injured. They provide immediate care in the event of a game injury. As needed, they will provide physician referral if necessary and will communicate with the parents and coaching staff about this process. Concussions are a very serious thing, and as such, they should be treated very seriously by both student athletes and parents. A concussion is a brain injury. Again, a concussion is a brain injury, and all concussions are serious. Concussions can be serious injuries with fatal consequences if not evaluated and treated properly. All concussions require an assessment and individualized treatment recommendations. Note, concussions can occur in any sport. They can be caused by a direct blow to the head or an injury to the body, resulting in an indirect force to the head. Any suspected concussion should be referred to the licensed athletic trainers. Concussions are a traumatic brain injury that impairs the brain's ability to carry out normal functions. There are many varied symptoms that can describe a concussion, and not all are visible. Some of those symptoms include headaches, dizziness, confusion, nausea, light and sound sensitivity, difficulty concentrating, memory loss, feeling slowed down, and personality changes can all be indicators of a possible head injury. Student athletes, you should never, ever try to hide the fact that you have a concussion. Parents, if you notice any of these symptoms, please make sure your child sees a licensed athletic trainer to be evaluated. Failure to diagnose and properly treat a first concussion can have serious effects on a student athlete if they have a second concussion. So again, never try to hide the fact that you may have a concussion. The licensed athletic trainers will perform preseason impact concussion testing to get a baseline of the athlete's neurological functions. All freshmen and juniors will be impact tested, and anyone who didn't take the test last year or is new to the school. Should the athlete sustain a suspected concussion, the pre-evaluation can be utilized by a physician to help determine the proper course of treatment for return to play. Only contact sports are tested. Any non-contact sport athlete may be tested upon request of the licensed athletic trainers. Non-impact sports are swimming, cross country, tennis, track, and golf. Parents and coaching staff will be contacted in the case of a suspected concussion. Parents will be directly notified and an informational sheet will be sent home. Athletes should be seen as soon as possible by the athletic trainer, then referred to a physician for further evaluation. All athletes will be kept out of all practices and activities while presenting any symptoms. They will see the licensed athletic trainers daily to track symptoms. When the athlete is asymptomatic, the parents will need a physician's clearance for return to practice or play. Once cleared by the physician, the licensed athletic trainers will run the athlete through a gradual return to play protocol. This process involves reintroduction of simple cardio, progressing to longer durations of cardio, to strength training, to limited practice conditions, a full practice, and then full return to practice and play status. Please note, parents and student athletes, if our coaching staff members have any doubt that a student athlete may have a concussion, they are instructed to sit the student athlete out. And if a student athlete is diagnosed with a concussion, as previously mentioned, a student athlete must be cleared by an appropriate healthcare professional once they are diagnosed with a concussion. Again, we are trying to keep our student athletes safe, and safety is priority number one. As I mentioned, coaches are instructed to use the following procedure with student athletes and concussions. When in doubt, sit them out. Parents and athletes are required to turn in a signed concussion information sheet at the beginning of each sports season they participate in during the school year, or the athlete can't practice or compete. That concussion informational packet is handed out at the fall, winter, and spring sport eligibility meetings. Additional information on concussions can be found at the WIAA website below. Parents and student athletes, I encourage you to visit that website and listen to that video. Keeping quiet can keep you out of the game, as it's a real life story about a student athlete that suffered from a concussion. Again, concussions are a very serious thing. We have a wealth of information available to the student athlete and parents about concussions, as student safety is priority number one. Also, please note, it is very important that licensed athletic trainers and the coaching staff members are notified by the parents and athletes about any prior or current pre-existing health conditions. Examples would be diabetes, asthma, allergy and allergic reactions, heart conditions, or any conditions that could impact the student's personal safety during play. If an athlete carries an inhaler or an EpiPen, make sure the coaching staff and teammates are made aware of this and are notified where to find it in the case of an emergency. Probably a good idea for this student athlete with an EpiPen or inhaler to have two. One they carry with them and maybe one in a locker if for some reason there's an issue with the one that is with them. Hydration. Basically an issue most of the time in fall sports, but also can be a concern at times in the spring as well. Athletes should consume at least 16 to 20 ounces of water 2 hours before practice and at least 8 ounces in the 15 minutes prior to practice beginning. Athletes should regularly consume water during breaks in practice, even if they do not feel thirsty. Feeling thirsty is not a proper measure of hydration. 48 ounces, or roughly 2 normal bottles of water, can be taken in during the course of an hour of strenuous practice. After practice, for every pound of water lost, athletes need to ingest 16 to 20 ounces of water. That is 1 bottle of water for every pound lost. This does not include the normal 6 to 8 bottles of water a person should also drink normally throughout the day. Again, keeping yourself hydrated properly will allow you to practice and compete at your peak level of ability. Again, some additional health information for student athletes and parents. Student athletes are required to have a valid physical on file with the school prior to being allowed to begin practice. Physicals on or after April 15, physicals on or after April 1st, 2015 are valid for the 2016-17 school year. If your physical was from April 1 of 2015 to March 31st of 2016, student athletes will also be required to turn in the WIAA alternate year card. Both of those forms can be printed on the Oshkosh Area School District website by selecting Oshkosh West High School, then selecting the athletic tab. Those forms will be available for you to print. Please note, with the physical form, we only need a completed page number 4 or clearance form that is filled out completely. That requires the doctor checking a box, clearing the student athlete, the doctor signing the form, indicating the date of exam, and the parent filling out the top of the form and signing and dating the bottom. I also encourage student athletes and parents to look at the WIAA banned substance list, which is found in the appendix of the Co-Curricular Handbook, for additional information on substances that are either illegal to use and or discouraged to use, which can have an impact on athletic eligibility. So at this time, I'm going to ask that you grab your Oshkosh Area School District Co-Curricular Handbook. Again, it is orange in color this year, and I'm going to ask you to follow along on a number of pages, as I will be covering a number of the more important items that are found within the handbook. Please note, parents and student athletes, you are responsible for all of the material found within the handbook. If you have questions on anything at all, please feel free to contact me directly, as I will be more than happy to answer any question you have. Again, I am only going to cover some of the more important items found within the handbook. So at this time, I'm going to ask you to open up the handbook. You'll notice a table of contents available for you that lists where you can find some of the more important items found within the handbook. It's kind of a reference for you. And it also lists the appendices that we have. All right, I'm going to ask you to turn to page 3, and we're going to talk about the Oshkosh Area School District Athletic Rules for Athletes. The procedure for joining any of the Oshkosh Area School District high school athletic squads requires procuring the following items from the activities coordinator and returning them to the school when completed. A physical or alternate year form. I previously covered those 2 items in the prior slide. Again, keep in mind, physicals must be on or after April 1, 2015 to be eligible for this school year, and any alternate year card is required for a physical from April 1 of 2015 to March 31st of 2016. Student athletes must turn in a signed agreement of parent-athlete form and insurance waiver form. Those are a bright green color this year, and again, that item is available online, or it is handed out at each of our eligibility meetings each season. The athlete must pay the athletic fee if applicable. That will be covered a little more in detail in the next slide. You must turn in an athletic emergency form. The agreement of parent-athlete form on the back, there is an athletic emergency form. Both the front and back sides of the agreement of parent-athlete form must be filled out completely, and that back side contains important medical information that parents must fill out, and it requires a parent signature and date as well. During the course of the season, early on of each season, athletes will bring home a pink emergency card. We ask that parents complete that information and have the card returned as soon as possible to the coach. The coach carries those cards with them to all contests, and that has the emergency contact information in the event the student athlete requires emergency medical treatment. Student athletes and parents must turn in a signed concussion acknowledgement form. As I mentioned previously, you will receive a concussion informational packet that contains a wealth of information about concussions. Student athletes and parents must sign and date the top sheet of that packet, turn in just the top form, and keep the concussion information as a resource. Also on page 3, you'll notice the WIAA website, which is found on this slide. Parents and student athletes, you are more than welcome to go to our state association's website, as the website contains a wealth of information, not only about rules and regulations, but many other items that are specific to each of the athletic programs or sports that are offered by the state association. Again, if you have questions about any WIAA rule or regulation, please feel free to contact me, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. On page 5 and 6 of the Co-Curricular Handbook is information about the Oshkosh Area School District High School Athletic Fee. Please note, this year's fee information is $50 per sport, a $100 individual limit per school year, and a $175 family limit per school year. Fees can be paid at registration, at the school bank, and I believe fee payment will be available online this year for parents through Infinite Campus. The athletic fee is waived for students participating in the district's free or reduced meals program. If you are participating in that program and would like to have your fee waived, on the agreement of parent athlete form, on the front side of that form, there is a box on the bottom that you must check so that when we get that form, that provides permission to the athletic department to verify your eligibility with our food service department here in the district. Now going to cover some of the academic requirements for student athletes participating in athletics. This information is on pages 6 to 8 of the Co-Curricular Handbook. Starting on page 6, under number 1A, a student must be a full-time student of Oshkosh West High School in order to be eligible to participate on one of our athletic teams. The student must meet school and DPI requirements defining a full-time student and have received no failing grades, including incompletes, in the most recent grade reporting period. Our grade reporting periods are the second grade reporting period of first semester, the second grade reporting period of second semester, and second semester grades. Those are the times that we check grades for student athlete eligibility. To be eligible to compete in athletics, a student must have no failing grades. I want to reiterate that. No failing grades are necessary in order to have athletic eligibility. Incoming freshmen start the fall season academically eligible. However, not only freshmen, but all students, please do the job first and foremost in the classroom, especially during the fall when we start school, to get yourself off to a good start academically. If you are academically ineligible, which means that you have at least one or more failing grades, your period of ineligibility is defined on pages 7 to 8. Please note, on page 7, students with more than one failing grade in fall WIAA sports and students with one failing grade in fall WIAA sports have a specific set of ineligibility criteria. That is under number 2. Once we get to our first grade check time, the academic eligibility policy that is followed is under number 4A. Basically, should a student become academically ineligible with one failing grade, he or she may not participate in competitions or performances for a minimum of 7 consecutive school days and nights while the activity is in session. The student may return to competition or performance on the 8th school day, provided the student received at least a 2.5 grade point average in the most recent grade reporting period, which means you would be academically eligible on the 8th school day if you met that 2.5 cumulative grade point average requirement. If the student had a grade point average of less than 2.5 in the most recent grade reporting period, he or she must come to the activities coordinator's office to secure an academic eligibility form. This form will list the student's current class load. The student must take the form to his or her teachers for completion and return it to the activities coordinator's office. To regain eligibility, the student must be passing in all courses. The procedure of taking this form to teachers must continue on a weekly basis throughout the season or until the student is no longer academically ineligible. Basically, if you are doing a grade check, you must be passing all classes each week to be eligible to compete. So you could be eligible one week, ineligible the next, or ineligible one week and eligible the next. Flipping over to page 8 on the top of that page. Should a student become academically ineligible with more than one failing grade, he or she may not participate in competitions or performances for a minimum of 15 consecutive school days and nights. The student may return to competition on the 16th school day provided the student is passing all of their classes. To regain eligibility, the student must, after 15 consecutive school days, come to the activity coordinator's office to secure an activities academic eligibility form. This form will list the student's current class load. The student must take the form to his or her teachers for completion and return it to the activities coordinator's office. To regain eligibility, the student must be passing in all classes. The procedure of taking this form to teachers must continue, pass or fail on a weekly basis throughout the season or until the student is no longer academically ineligible. Therefore, if you have more than one failing mark, you must miss 15 consecutive school days and nights. In the spring, if you're a student athlete, spring break, those school days do not count. In the winter break days do not count. A day where we are not in school for any reason, those days do not count. So please be aware of that. Also, if you have more than one failing mark, you must be passing each and every class, each and every week. So you could be eligible one week and ineligible the next, or vice versa. The moral of the story is, student athletes, remember, you are a student athlete, student first. Please do the job in the classroom or your athletic eligibility will be affected. Also note, under the new section, students who received one failing grade and who have had less than a 2.5 grade point average in the most recent grade reporting period, or students who received more than one failing grade for the most recent grade reporting period, will have a chance to regain academic eligibility at the 5 or 15-week grade reporting period. These students will have their grades checked at these grade reporting periods, and if the student has no failing grades, they will no longer be considered academically ineligible. What we are doing is allowing students another chance to get academically eligible at the 5 and 15-week mark if they are academically ineligible. On pages 9 and 10 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, I want to talk a little bit about illness, out-of-town travel, and vacations. So on page 5, number 9, or on page 9, number 5, a student must be present at all classes on the day of a practice or a competition or performance to be eligible to participate. Only permission from school administration will permit a student to compete after missing class. Such examples of excused reasons would be attendance at a funeral, a doctor, dentist, or other medical health care provider appointment, an absence that is related to a classroom grade, such as a field trip, or the like. Excused absences are not a problem. Students may not participate in any competition, performance, or practice if they are out ill for any or all of the school day without permission from the school administration. Please note, basically, if you are not feeling well, we do allow most of the time students to practice or compete if they contact the school in the morning, get permission from school administration to come to school at least for the second half of the day. If those things are done, we typically grant permission to participate. However, if a student goes home ill for the second half of the day, that student will not be allowed to practice, compete, or perform that night. On page 9, number 7, a student who travels to an out-of-town contest with a school team or activity must return with the team or activity. The only exception to this rule is if a student's parent is present at the out-of-town site, he or she may request that the student returns with the parent. The request must be made in person by the parent to the coach or advisor in charge, and the parent will also have to sign off that they are taking their child and their child only. Each coach will have a copy of the district's transportation form with them for all away events. It is important to note, however, the coach or advisor has the option whether or not to grant permission. In most all cases, our coaches will be understanding and will more than likely grant permission. However, note, it is not a guarantee. Also, a parent and a parent only can request to take their child and their child only. A parent cannot take the friend of a child. It cannot be a grandparent or older sibling that wants to take a child. It must be the parent or legal guardian, and they can take their child and their child only. On page 10 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, number 11, at the discretion of each coach or advisor, when a student is absent due to being on vacation with his or her family, upon returning to the team activity, that student will not be allowed to participate in competitions or performances equal to 1/2 of the competition or performances that student missed. If the student is absent due to being on vacation with someone other than his or her family, the student will not be allowed to participate in whatever number of competitions or performances were missed. One competition or performance for each competition or performance missed. Note, if a student misses only practices but not competitions due to being on vacation with either family or friends, this may impact playing time for the student upon his or her return. Students and their parents are encouraged to speak with their coach or advisor as soon as possible if they will miss any part of their season. Note, even if you don't miss games while you're gone due to being on vacation, you are not there practicing with the other members of the team and preparing yourself for your next opponent. Therefore, it should be no surprise that when you return, you will not return to the same spot you previously were in the rotation, starting lineup, etc. for the team that you're participating on. The other students that were there and made the choice to be at practice made that decision. They are there. Those that leave due to wanting to be on vacation have to understand there will be some type of consequence potentially for you when you return. Now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about in-district transportation. The use of cameras and other recording devices in locker rooms are in our club athletic program policies, which are found on pages 10 to 13 of the Co-Curricular Handbook. Starting on page 10, number 15, the district does not provide transportation for students to any practice sites and some home competition or performance sites. In these situations, it is the responsibility of the student, parent or parents, and or legal guardians to provide their own transportation. Some of our programs, such as golf, for example, it is the parent's responsibility to get their child to and from the school and the golf course for practices. When we compete in town against Oshkosh North, there will be times where the school will not provide transportation to that site. It will be the parent's responsibility to get their child to that performance or competition site. Please note, the school district also does not encourage in any way for students to transport other students. On page 11, number 16, is the district's policy on the use of cameras and or other recording devices in locker rooms. Please be sure to read that policy. It is a new policy, not new in concept, but new in wording. And as such, all student athletes and parents should be aware of what that policy is. On page 12, I want to talk a little bit about our club athletic program policy. It's number 16 on page 12. The district understands that students may want to participate in club athletic programs during the school year during their high school sports season. As a result, we have created the following policy to help guide our decision making. For varsity athletes, if a student is on a varsity high school team, The head coach will determine whether or not students will be allowed to practice or participate in a club athletic program during their varsity high school season. If a coach's position is no club athletic participation during the varsity high school season, it is based on the premise that a student's loyalty and allegiance should be to the high school team. For non-varsity athletes such as JV-A, JV-B, JV, and or freshman teams, if a student is on a JV or freshman high school team, students will be allowed to participate in club athletic programs during their JV or freshman high school season with the following stipulations. 1. The student and parents need to inform the coach about their intentions as soon as possible. And 2, students will not be allowed to miss a high school scheduled practice or competition for a club athletic practice or competition. Please note, parents and students, if you want to participate with a club athletic program during a high school sports season, please be sure to have a conversation with your coach as soon as possible, or as soon as you know your intention is to participate in a club athletic program. Upfront communication helps alleviate a number of issues. Also, on page 13, please note the new and recently updated WIAA non-school competition rule. It is the philosophy of the WIAA that a student owes a loyalty and allegiance to the school and team of which he or she is a member during the season of a given sport. Athletes may compete in not more than 2 non-school competitions with school approval during each regular sport season. The contest will not count against the individual maximum for the athlete in that sport. Non-school competition will not be allowed during the respective WIAA tournament series in a sport. A student becomes ineligible in a sport for the remainder of the season for competing in more than 2 non-school games, meets, or contests in the same sport during the season of practice and competition established by the school. The penalty may be reduced upon request of a school on the basis of documented extenuating circumstances. That is language verbatim from the 2016 WIAA Senior High Handbook on pages 36 and 37. So what this means is, in years past, if you are a golfer and you participated in a non-school golf event during your high school golf season, you used to be ineligible for the rest of the high school season. So if you were an athlete in any sport, if you had participated in the same sport during your high school season, you were then ineligible for the rest of your high school season if you participated in a non-school game meet competition. The rule has changed to allow athletes to compete in no more than 2 non-school competitions. However, that requires school approval. Therefore, you must inform the school in advance of your desire to participate in a non-school competition, and ultimately the school will decide whether or not to grant that request. Both Oshkosh North and West will be working together to try to be consistent with this new rule, as it will be something that we know will come forward at times from our student athletes and parents. Again, questions at all about that new rule, please contact myself in the high school office or send me an email or phone call. Now I'm going to spend some time talking about the Co-Curricular Handbook Code of Conduct, which is really the nuts and bolts of this handbook. Starting on page 13, the Code of Conduct is established for the best interest of the students and the team or activity. The student who complies with the rules demonstrates a desire to dedicate himself or herself to self-improvement as well to enhance the best interests of fellow teammates, coaches, advisors, and the school. Participation in activities is not necessarily for the most talented students, rather it is for the most talented students who abide by the rules. The Code of Conduct must be observed by all students throughout the calendar year, not only when the particular activity is not in season, but also when the school is not in session. Please note, in all situations involving possible violations of the Code of Conduct, administrative discretion will determine whether or not there is an actual violation of the Code of Conduct. Number 1, a student must refrain from any conduct at any time that would reflect unfavorably on himself, herself, or the school. Conduct which would reflect unfavorably on a student or on the school includes but is not limited to the following. We have items listed on page 13, 14, and 15 that are not letters A through R. Please be sure to review all of those particular items. I want to spend or emphasize a few of them, starting with A. Use, possession, buying, or selling of controlled substances, street drugs, illegal drugs, and or performance-enhancing substances. Drug paraphernalia, including sale, possession, or use, in situations where controlled substances, street drugs, illegal drugs, performance-enhancing substances, and or drug paraphernalia are found at a student's home property or personal property, such as car, boat, camper, campsite, etc., the district's position will be that the student was in possession of the controlled substance, street drug, illegal drug, performance-enhancing substances, and or drug paraphernalia. The burden of proof will be on the student to convince school administration that he or she did not know the controlled substances, street drugs, illegal drugs, performance-enhancing substances, and or drug paraphernalia were present. B. Use, possession, or purchase of alcoholic beverages. In situations where alcohol is found at a student's home property or personal property, car, boat, camper, campsite, etc., the district's position will be that the student was in possession of the alcohol. The burden of proof will be on the student to convince school administration that he or she did not know the alcohol was present. Letter C. Use, possession, or purchase of tobacco in any form. Use of tobacco means to chew or possess any substance containing tobacco, including smokeless tobacco, in the mouth to derive the effects of tobacco, as well as all uses of tobacco, including cigars, cigarettes, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, snuff, or any other matter or substances that contain tobacco, in addition to papers used to roll cigarettes and or the smoking of electronic, vapor, or other substitute forms of cigarettes, clove cigarettes, and or any other lighted smoking devices for burning tobacco or any other substance, such as an e-cigarette. In situations where tobacco is found at a student's home, property, or personal property, car, boat, camper, campsite, etc., the district's position will be that the student was in possession of the tobacco. The burden of proof will be on the student to convince school administration that he or she did not know the tobacco was present. Letter F. Criminal offense or a violation of a state statute or city county ordinance having a statutory counterpart, not to include such violations as traffic, jaywalking, or other similar minor citations. Note, even if you are not formally charged with a state statute or city county ordinance violation, if the behavior was a violation of a state statute or city county ordinance having a statutory counterpart, it more than likely will be a violation of the district's co-curricular code of conduct. Letter I. Knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and or drug paraphernalia. In situations where it is noticeably apparent to law enforcement officials that alcohol, illegal drugs, and or drug paraphernalia are present, the district's determination will be that the student was knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and or drug paraphernalia. Students may be present at an establishment which is primarily for eating and may be present at a ceremony activity such as a wedding reception. Students may only be present at a bar or tavern if they are with their parents. Note, students, if you find yourself in a situation where you know something illegal is going on or you are in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and or drug paraphernalia, make a call to a parent or friend. Leave the situation immediately. Do not be afraid to come forward and inform myself, your coach, or another school administrator of the situation about what happened. We are very reasonable people. It will be a lot easier for us to believe you if you come forward and tell us than if we find out the information and bring you down to ask you what happened. Letter N. Behavior or conduct which reflects unfavorably on a student. Note, this is a very broad topic and covers many different types of behaviors. One I want to mention is getting an in or out of school suspension at school. If you find yourself receiving an in or out of school suspension, please be advised that you very well may receive a code of conduct violation. If you're not behaving appropriately in the classroom, it should be no surprise that you lose the ability to participate or compete in athletics for a period of time. We are asking you to model appropriate behavior at all time as a student athlete. Letter Q, illegal or inappropriate use of the internet and or electronic devices. Any posting or communication via social networking websites which disrupts either the education or athletic environment is unacceptable. This includes, but is not limited to, the consumption of alcohol or the use of illicit drugs or facsimiles, inappropriate sexually oriented material or activities involving bullying, hazing, or harassment. Note, social media uses and or your cell phone use to send inappropriate sexually pictures of sexual nature, harassment, bullying, okay? Or visiting inappropriate websites. Those are all ways in which you can find yourself in violation of the district's co-curricular handbook, the code of conduct. Please make good choices. Please only use your cell phone for appropriate uses. Letter Q, hosting a party. Any person who has a gathering at his or her home, property or personal property, car, boat, camper, campsite, etc., where alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or drug paraphernalia are permitted by such person to be used and or brought into the home, property, or personal property, may be given a penalty at a higher level, which means it may not be just step one, it could be the second step. Or if you already had step one, it might be the third step. Administrative discretion will determine the length of penalty. Note, we have also removed this, the language that said you were not eligible to utilize the self-referral option. That language has been removed from this area. Letter R, supplying, bringing alcohol, drugs. Any person who brings, supplies alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or drug paraphernalia to another person or persons may be given a penalty at a higher level. Administrative discretion will determine the length of the penalty. In the event another individual engages in this behavior on behalf of the athlete, there will be a presumption that the other individual acted as an agent of the athlete, and the athlete will receive the same punishment as if the athlete had been the supplier. As an example, you ask an older sibling to get alcohol and bring it and supply it to others. That we will assume that you were doing that yourself, even though it was your older brother or sister or cousin, etc., that did that. Also note, under the supply bringing area, we also removed the language that said students could not use a self-referral option. That is now a possibility for students that violate that particular area or this particular area of the code of conduct. Note again, parents and students, all areas, letters A through R, are considered violations of the district's code of conduct. Please be familiar with those. I emphasized and reviewed A, B, C, F, I, N, P, Q, and R in more detail because I feel those are some of the more common areas that we have violations in. Note, students, the code of conduct must be observed year-round. Okay? Please make good choices. As I mentioned, for the 16-17 school year, apologize for the error on the slide, we have updated letter C, Q, and R. Note, students, you get 4 years. Please make the most of those 4 years. Make good choices. Every choice that you make has a consequence. If you find yourself violating the district's code of conduct, please do the adult and responsible thing. Turn yourself in and utilize the district's self-referral policy. I will be covering that in more detail in the near future. Basically, we are saying, if you are honest, we reward honesty. Do the right thing. Make good choices. If you find yourself in a jam, call somebody. Remove yourself from the situation. Come forward and tell us what happened. We are very reasonable people. It becomes a lot easier for us to believe you if you come forward with the information than if we call you down to the office to ask you, if you were involved in a particular situation that we were made aware of. Note, starting on page 15 and going through page 22 are guidelines for penalties. Basically, what happens to you if you break the district's code of conduct. I want to make note on page 17 of simultaneous consequences. Basically, students may participate in simultaneous activities. However, if a student incurs a violation, he or she shall be penalized according to the code for each activity, such as if they're involved in A and B, if any or all activities are taking place simultaneously at the same time. All category A, B, and E activities will have defined beginning and ending dates. So, note if you're in a category A and category B activity, and they both are taking place at the same time and you break the code, you will get a penalty in both your category A and B activities. On page 17 and page 18, please note items 1 through 9. Okay, many of them have previously been covered. For a violation in any area 1 through 9, without a self-referral, a first violation for category A is suspension for 1/4 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/4 of the regular season. The student may continue to practice at the discretion of school administration. The student must also complete a student assistant program or similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. Note, for first-time offenders in the areas of knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia, in situations where it is noticeably apparent to law enforcement officials that alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia are present, the district's determination will be that the student was knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. The suspension for that will be 1/8 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/8 of the regular season. The student must also complete a student assistance program or similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. A second violation in areas 1 to 9 on page 17 and 18 is a suspension for an entire season or the equivalent of an entire season. A third violation, areas 1 to 9 on pages 17 to 18 of the handbook, is suspension for 1 full school year or the equivalent of 1 full school year. A fourth violation for areas 1 to 9 on pages 17 to 18 of the Co-Curricular Handbook is the student loses the privilege to participate in all co-curricular activities during the remainder of his or her academic career. On page 19, we talk about our self-referral option. Basically, the definition of a self-referral is if a student presents himself or herself to the activities coordinator and/or their coach or other school administrator as a person who has violated the code of conduct in the areas numbered 1 to 5 below, the student will have his or her penalty reduced. For this to occur, the student must self-admit no later than the first school day after the violation has occurred and the information cannot already have been shared with school administration from another source. Administration may grant an extension to the 1-day school provision due to extenuating circumstances. Students and their parents are strongly encouraged to self-report violations of the Code of Conduct during the summer months to the activities coordinator as soon as possible, such as right away during the summer. Note, the self-referral option is 1 school day unless there are extenuating circumstances, and we must not have already been made aware of what happened. For example, if you come to a school dance under the influence, school administration is already going to be aware of that, therefore self-referral is not an option. Again, self-referring is doing the adult and responsible thing by turning yourself in. Note, self-referral is only available for items 1 through 5 on pages 19 and 20, and it may also be an option for number 6 and 7 this school year, which is hosting a party, supplying alcohol, or bringing drugs or alcohol. Again, 1 through 5 include use, possession, buying, or selling of controlled substances, street drugs, illegal drugs, and/or performance-enhancing substances, drug paraphernalia, including sale, possession, or use. 2, use, possession, or purchase of tobacco in any form. 3, use, possession, or purchase of alcoholic beverages. 4, knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. 5, acts of vandalism. As I mentioned now, 6 and 7, hosting a party and/or supplying, bringing alcohol or drugs are also possibilities this year. So, starting on page 21, the penalties for a violation of number 1 through 9 on pages 19 and 20 of the Co-Curricular Handbook. A first violation for Category A with a self-referral is suspension for 1/8 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/8 of the regular season. The student may continue to practice at the discretion of school administration. The student must also complete a student assistance program or similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. Note, for first-time offenders in the areas of knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. In situations where it is noticeably apparent to law enforcement officials that alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia are present, the district's determination will be that the student was knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. For a first-time offender in this category with a self-referral, suspension for 1/8 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/8 of the regular season. Should the student also volunteer to complete a student assistance program or similar approved educational program and time frame permits such participation prior to the completion of the season, the penalty will be reduced to 1 competition or performance. For a second violation with a self-referral of the categories mentioned on pages 19 and 20, Category A, suspension for 50% of the season or the equivalent of 50% of the season with the following additional requirements. 1. A 20-hour community service plan. The plan must be submitted to the activities coordinator within 5 school days of the violation. The community service hours must be completed prior to activity eligibility being reinstated. 2. Meeting with the high school social worker and/or district's ATODA coordinator and following through with any recommended course of action. The program must be successfully completed prior to co-curricular eligibility being reinstated, or prior arrangements must be made with the activities coordinator. Basically, a second violation with a self-referral can salvage half of your season instead of a full season, which is a second violation without a self-referral. A third violation for items 1 through 9 on pages 19 to 20 of the Co-Curricular Handbook. Suspension will be for 1 full school year or the equivalent of 1 full school year. And a fourth violation for items number 1 through 9 on page 19 and 20 of the Co-Curricular Handbook. The student loses the privilege to participate in all co-curricular activities during the remainder of his or her academic career in the district. Please note, students, we want you to make good choices. Please make good choices. Every choice has a consequence. Ask yourself, is being at this party worth the potential loss of competing? Is having that beer, holding that drug paraphernalia, is breaking the law? Is it worth it? Okay, please make good choices. We want to see you competing. Every choice you make has the potential to take away an opportunity for you to compete. I also want to mention something back on page 15 under the complaint process. Violations of the Co-Curricular Code of Conduct should be referred to the appropriate high school activities coordinator or other school administrator. Students and parents are strongly encouraged to use the self-referral policy. Other complaints referrals concerning a code of conduct violation shall be made in writing and signed by the complainant and/or by a law enforcement report and/or by a published written account and/or by other factual, credible means to the activities coordinator or other school administrator. School administration will consider statements made by students to law enforcement officials which are verbally shared with school administration and/or are found in written law enforcement report as factual and truthful statements. If a student, upon questioning by a school official, recants on such statements made to a law enforcement official, the district's position will be that the statements made to the law enforcement official were truthful, and as such, it will be up to the student to convince school administration otherwise. Any student in this situation who makes a statement to a law enforcement official or officials will be determined to violate the district's code of conduct, or which is determined to violate the district's code of conduct, will be ineligible for competition until otherwise determined eligible by school administration. As I mentioned before, please utilize the self-referral definition. We are all humans. We all make mistakes. Both students and parents sign the agreement of parent and athlete form. As such, parents, if you know your student has violated the district's code of conduct, please do the responsible thing. Ask them to be held accountable and have them utilize the self-referral policy. On page 22, note items number 10 through 14. These specific areas are cumulative in themselves, which means a first violation here, and if there's a violation in areas 1 through 9 in the areas previously covered on pages 17 to 20 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, are not automatically considered a second violation. Okay? Items 10 through 14 on page 22 are cumulative in themselves only. Please note, number 10, criminal offense or violation of a city-county ordinance having a statutory counterpart. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the suspension will be determined based on the severity of the offense. If a student utilizes a self-referral option outlined previously in this handbook, his or her suspension may be reduced depending on the severity of the offense for first or second violations only. Please note, this does not include minor traffic violations such as speeding or parking tickets. Number 11 I want to mention, acts of harassment including hazing. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the penalty, which may involve game suspensions, will be determined based on the severity of the offense. And number 14, as previously mentioned, illegal or inappropriate use of the internet and/or electronic devices. Any posting or communication via social networking websites which disrupts either the educational or athletic environment is unacceptable. On pages 22, 23, and 24 is information about behavioral offenses. Note, these are considered violations of the Code of Conduct, but not necessarily as severe. Please be aware of those violations, numbers 1 through 8. I want to mention a few in particular. Number 4, acts of truancy. A student participating in activities will not be permitted to participate in the next scheduled contest whenever the student has had an unexcused absence from school unless administration grants permission to participate. Please note, students, if you skip class, we will find out about it and you will be held accountable. If you get an unexcused notification at home, parents, please get it cleared up immediately so that your child isn't put in a position where they may lose the opportunity to practice or participate because of that unexcused absence. 5, behavior or conduct which reflects unfavorably on a student. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the suspension will be determined based on the severity of the offense. I previously mentioned in and out of school suspensions. Any behavior which is considered illegal, even though a student may not get a ticket for it, would probably be a violation of this section of the code. Number 6, cheating. A first offense during one's high school career. The teacher involved will handle the situation in the classroom and will make contact with the activities coordinator. Basically, if it's not a severe violation of our cheating policy, the student gets a warning. A second offense during one's high school career and any additional offenses. The student will be referred to the activities coordinator for a behavioral offense or code of conduct violation. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the suspension will be determined based on the severity of the offense. Note, for any first offense found to be especially serious, administration reserves the right to invoke a second offense consequence. So basically, any very serious first offense could have a suspension. Any second and or subsequent suspension or violation would have a code of conduct consequence. Number 8, failure to be a student in good standing. A student must be a student in good standing at each checkpoint in order to compete in any co-curricular event. A student in good standing is defined as follows. 1, you adhere to the high school code of student conduct. 2, you adhere to your high school attendance and tardy policies. 3, you have no unserved detentions. Checkpoints for the 16-17 school year include October 3rd, the start of each winter sports season, January 9th, the start of each spring sports season, and April 17th. Only administrative approval will allow a student to compete in a co-curricular event if a student is not a student in good standing at each checkpoint. Basically, if you have detentions that have not been served. You must serve those prior to those checkpoints, or it may impact your ability to be able to compete and or perform. Also, please note, on the top of page 24, for varsity student athletes, the minimum penalty for code of conduct violations or any behavioral offenses that result in a student athlete being suspended for any portion of the WIAA tournament competition is immediate disqualification of the student athlete for the remainder of the total tournament series in that sport. Athletes who are ineligible for the tournament for any reason may not appear in uniform, participate in warm-ups, and may not participate in the award ceremony at the tournament. Exception: an injured athlete will be allowed to participate in the award ceremony provided he or she is included in the roster allotment for that game. So if you're a varsity athlete and you receive a code of conduct violation for any reason and you have started your tournament series, you are out for the entire tournament series. On pages 25 and 26 is information about our appeals process. Number 2, if a student receives a ruling of ineligibility resulting in suspension from co-curriculars, a student and or the student's parents may formally appeal the decision in writing to the activities coordinator, provided an appeal is received within 10 days after notification is sent. Note, appeals may be filed only in reference to whether there was a code violation or not. An appeal may not be filed to change a consequence. On page 26 under letter 3, it explains our appeals process. Note, the appeal committee will either uphold or abolish the co-curricular code suspension. While the appeal process is occurring, the penalty for the violation will remain in effect. And number 4, note, the decision by the appeal committee will be final and binding. On pages 26 to 28 is information about our awards. There are 2 types of awards presented to student athletes: participation awards and achievement awards. Note, to qualify for an award, the student athlete may not be suspended for any alcohol, tobacco, drugs, drug paraphernalia, performance enhancing substances, vandalism, criminal offense, or violation of a city county ordinance having a statutory counterpart, or other serious offense considered unbecoming of a student or athlete. However, if a student athlete self-refers to the activities coordinator for a first-time offense in the areas of alcohol, tobacco, drugs, drug paraphernalia, performance enhancing substances, vandalism, and possibly a criminal offense or violation of a city county ordinance having a statutory counterpart, that student may be eligible to receive any school awards during the season once all obligations concerning the referral have been fulfilled. Again, another benefit of being honest, turning yourself in for violations, doing the right thing. Please note the following district all-conference guideline. Any Oshkosh area school district student athlete suspended from participation for an athletic contest due to a code of conduct violation in the areas of alcohol, tobacco, drugs, drug paraphernalia, performance enhancing substances, vandalism, criminal offense, or violation of a city county ordinance having a statutory counterpart, or other serious offense considered unbecoming of a student athlete will not be eligible for all conference recognition in any sport where the suspension is initiated. Again, another thing to consider, varsity athletes, when it comes to making good choices. Do you want to lose the ability to be all conference? No, if you're not able to be all conference, in many cases in your sport, you cannot be all region and or all state. So again, student athletes, please think about every choice that you make. Every decision can have a consequence. Make the most of your 4 years. Make good choices. Don't put yourself in situations where you could be in violation of the district's code of conduct. On page 28 is information about the district's communication process. Note, the activities department encourages students, parents, coaches, and advisors to open the line of communication using the following understandings. 1 through 10. I want to emphasize a few. 1. Coaches' advisors are required to operate under an open door policy where they will candidly respond to questions and concerns from either the student or the parent. 2. If the student or parent has a question or concern about the program, the question or concern should be brought directly to the coach or advisor. Parents and students, if you contact the activities coordinator or principal with a question or concern about your coach or the program you're in, the first question we will ask you is, have you had a conversation with your coach? If not, then we will refer you down to the coach. Which gets to number 8. If the student, parent, or coach advisor cannot mutually resolve the concern or questions are not answered, the subject should then be brought to school administration. So if you've had that first step and you still don't have a resolution, then myself or Principal Cole, along with the coach, the parent, and the student athlete will all sit down at the table and have another conversation to see if we can come to a solution. Please note, parents and students, negative approaches to problem solving do nothing but make the environment for all more destructive. Students, parents, coaches, advisors, and school administrators must work together in an atmosphere of mutual trust fostered by open communication. Again, parents or students, if you have questions or concerns about your role on the team, about your playing time, or anything at all about the program you're participating in, please make it a point to schedule a time to talk with your coach. On pages 28 and 29 is information about sportsmanship. The district does have sportsmanship expectations. Please read the information under sportsmanship on pages 28 and 29. I want to note and emphasize the Fox Valley Association expectations of parents, guests, and other fans found in the middle of page 29. Of those 6 bulleted items, I want to emphasize the 5th one, which I think summarizes it all. Be a fan, not a fanatic. Failure to comply with any of the aforementioned rules can result in the spectator being removed from the premises, and in the case of a student, further discipline action by the appropriate school administrator. Please note, parents, improper or inappropriate behavior by parents can result in the loss of parent admittance to school-sponsored activities as well. Anyone ejected from a regular season tournament or WIAA tournament game is automatically ejected from any and all remaining games of the tournament. Again, please be a good ambassador and role model of Oshkosh West High School, the Oshkosh Area School District, and the Oshkosh community. Thank you for your assistance with sportsmanship. On pages 29 and 30 are some outstanding resources for parents and student athletes here at Oshkosh West. Note, the FoxValleyAssociation.org website is a wonderful website for parents. I encourage you to bookmark it and visit it. From this website, you can print all of our program or sports schedules directly. You can also sign up for a free service under the Notify Me link on the webpage. That information on how to do that is found on page 30. You can also download schedules to your smartphone or your computer. I also want to emphasize the FEAsports.net. That's the Fox Valley Association website, which contains a wealth of information about results and statistics for each sport, as well as student-athlete profiles and other important news regarding the Fox Valley Association. And I encourage parents and student-athletes to follow me on Twitter at OWHS Activities, as during the course of the competition season and school year, I'll be tweeting out updates and photos of our student-athletes doing wonderful things, and also students in our other activities doing great things here at Oshkosh West High School. At this time, I'm going to ask you to continue on in the Co-Curricular Handbook to some of our appendices, as there's information that's very, very important from other organizations other than the Oshkosh Area School District. You'll note the first 2 pages are from the first page is from the WIAA, which is a quick eligibility overview for athletes. I encourage you, parents and students, to read that to make sure you are eligible. The next appendix is the 2016-17 High School Athletic Eligibility Information Bulletin. This is a short synopsis of many of the more important WIAA rules of eligibility that parents and student athletes need to be aware of. Again, if you have a question on anything about anything found in the Co-Curricular Handbook and or in this eligibility bulletin, please contact me. At this time, I'm going to cover some of the more important items in the WIAA eligibility bulletin. On page 1, about the middle of the page, age. A student shall be ineligible for interscholastic competition if he or she reaches his or her 19th birthday before August 1st of any given school year. On the bottom of the first page and going over the second page of the bulletin, residence. A full-time student, whether an adult or not, is eligible for varsity interscholastic competition only at the school within whose attendance boundaries his or her parents reside within a given school district with these additional provisions. Please note letters A through J. I want to mention a few of them. C. In the event of divorce or legal separation, whether pending or final, a student's residence at the beginning of the school year shall determine eligibility, except in situations involving transfer after the 4th consecutive semester following entry into grade 9. For the purpose of this rule, attendance at one day of school and or attendance at one athletic practice shall determine beginning of the school year. Under this rule, a student who transfers after the beginning of the school year shall be ineligible at the new school unless approval is granted by the Board of Control in accordance with the transfer and or waiver provisions as described in the high school handbook. Letter G. After a student has participated and has not participated and or has had their eligibility restricted for one calendar year due to reasons relating to residence and or transfer, he or she becomes eligible. Letter H. A student athlete will not be eligible in his or her attendance if his or her attendance at a particular school resulted from undue influence, special consideration because of athletic eligibility on the part of any person. Transfers. The bottom of page 2 and continues on to the page 3. A full-time student may be afforded up to 8 consecutive semesters of interscholastic eligibility upon entry into grade 9. Transferring schools at any time may result in restrictions being imposed on eligibility, or in some cases, a denial of eligibility. For the purpose of this rule, attendance at one day of school and or attendance at one athletic practice shall determine beginning of school year. These additional provisions relate to transfer cases. A student who transfers from any school into a member school after the 6th consecutive semester following entry into grade 9, which is typically after their junior year, shall be ineligible for competition at any level for one calendar year, but may practice unless the transfer is made necessary by a total change in residence by parents. The calendar year will be determined from a student's first day of attendance at the new school. Please note, it is not always the school's determination if the transfer was made necessary. In some cases, it will be the WIAA state office providing input on whether it was a necessitated change in residence. Letter B. Open enrolled and or tuition paying students entering 9th and or 10th grade at the beginning of the school year and who are within the first 4 consecutive semesters of high school will be afforded unrestricted eligibility provided all rules governing student eligibility are met. Letter C. Open enrolled and or tuition paying students entering 11th grade are restricted to non-varsity opportunities for one calendar year. Letter D. Open enrolled and or tuition paying students entering 12th grade as transfer students are ineligible to compete at any level for one calendar year but may practice. Letter G. In the event of divorce or legal separation, whether pending or final, residence at the beginning of the school year shall determine eligibility for students entering 9th and or 10th grade. In situations involving transfer after the 6th consecutive semester following entry into grade 9, the student is ineligible to compete at any level for one calendar year but may practice. Letter 8. District policies with respect to intra-district transfer do not supersede WIAA transfer rules in situations involving post-6th semester transfers. Intra-district transfers occurring after the 6th consecutive semester following entry into grade 9 result in the student being ineligible for competition at any level for one calendar year, but may practice. That means in multi-high school districts, even if a school district allows a transfer let's say the senior year, that will not guarantee athletic eligibility. The WIAA transfer rule will supersede any district rule regarding transfers. And flipping over to the third page of the eligibility bulletin regarding transfers, letter L, a student who transfers from any school, whether or not a member school, with a status of ineligibility for discipline reasons, academic reasons, and or as a result of another state association's regulation or sanction, retains such status at his or her new school for the same period as decreed by the former school. Basically, if you are considering transferring at any time, please speak with the AD at the school you are considering leaving and during enrolling in to make sure you are fully aware of what your eligibility status may be. On the third page of the eligibility bulletin, training and conduct. Note, a student athlete must follow his or her code of conduct or training rules on a year-round basis. I want to emphasize a couple sections. D, a student athlete who violates any part of the school or WIAA's code of conduct resulting in suspension for any portion of WIAA-sponsored tournament competition must be immediately declared ineligible for the remainder of the tournament series in that sport. During the WIAA tournament, an ineligible athlete may not suit up. Letter E, a student athlete disqualified from a contest for flagrant or unsportsmanlike conduct is also suspended from the next competitive event. Letter F, any player who in the judgment of the official intentionally spits on, strikes, slaps, kicks, pushes, or aggressively, physically contacts an official at any time shall be immediately ineligible for competition a minimum of 90 calendar days from the date of the confrontation. In addition, the player is ineligible to compete for the first 25% of the next season in that same sport. Student athletes, never put yourself in a position with an official where you are not in control of your emotions and you may do something that would violate this section. The moral of the story is do not ever become confrontational with an official. Let your coach have a conversation or talk with your coach if you have a question about something. Amateur status on the bottom of page 3. Please note, very important section of the eligibility bulletin. Please be sure to read these areas and let me know if you have any question about anything found in it. A student athlete must be an amateur in all recognized sports of this association in order to compete in any WIAA sport. A student may not accept, receive, or direct to another reimbursement in any form of cash or merchandise such as shoes, shirts, jackets, sweaters, sweatshirts, jerseys, warm-ups, equipment, balls, duffel bags, backpack, watches, rings, billfolds, coupons, gift certificates, regardless of their value for athletic accomplishments such as being on a winning team, being selected for the school varsity team, or being a place winner in an individual tournament. As an example, if you're a high school student athlete in a golf tournament and your team or you win the longest drive, and as a result they want to give you a prize, you cannot accept it. If you are not sure, don't take that item and then ask your high school athletic director or coach for more information. B, a student athlete may receive awards for school achievement which are symbolic or non-utilitarian in nature. Badges, certificates, trophies, medals, banners, ribbons, pictures, plaques, event t-shirts, event hats, game balls, unattached emblems, letters, season highlight DVD or video. C, a student athlete may not receive compensation or benefit directly or indirectly for the use of their name, picture, and or personal appearance as an athlete because of ability, potential, and or performance as an athlete. This includes receiving free or reduced rates on equipment, apparel, camps, clinics, instruction, and competitive opportunities that are not identical for any and all interested students. As an example, if you're a student athlete, you cannot receive a discount on shoes or apparel that is not the same discount that any high school student could receive that would come into that store. Again, if you're not sure, don't take the discount. D, a student athlete may not be identified with or without permission as an athlete, provide endorsement as an athlete, or appear as an athlete in the promotion of a commercial advertisement and or profit-making event, item, plan, or service. Never let your picture be used in anything that would be considered a commercial advertisement, promotion, or profit-making event, item, plan, or service. As an example, let's say you're a member of the Boy Scouts and they want to use your picture for a calendar fundraiser or on a flyer for a fundraising event. If you are identified as an athlete That could be by your name, wearing your uniform, having a prop. That could render yourself in violation of amateur status. You don't want to be in that position. Don't allow that to happen. If you have questions or concerns, contact me or your coach for more information. Letter E, a student athlete may not participate in school athletics or in school activities outside the school under a name other than his or her own. Please don't put yourself in a competition in which you know you can't compete in and just say, well, I'm going to put myself in under somebody else's name. That can render yourself in violation of amateur status. Amateur status violations are very, very serious and can have the potential to be career ending. You never want to put yourself in that position. So please, if you're not sure, don't take or ask before you make a decision regarding participating or allowing your likeness, name, or whatever to potentially ever be used. On the last page of the sports eligibility bulletin, it talks about sports outside of school. On the top of that fourth page, athletes may compete in not more than 2 non-school competitions with school approval during each regular sports season. The contest or contests will not count against the individual maximum for the athlete in that sport. Non-school competition will not be allowed during the respective WIAA tournament series in a sport. Violations of this rule results in the loss of eligibility for the remainder of the season, including the WIAA tournament series. Again, that is the new WIAA rule change that I referenced before. And if you are considering wanting to participate in a non-school activity during your season, please contact your coach and the activities coordinator ASAP, as school permission is required. Note letter A, WIAA rules do not prevent athletes from practicing with non-school teams or from receiving private skills instruction during the school season. However, they may not participate officially or unofficially in more than 2 non-school competitions or races, including scrimmages against other teams with school approval. Note also, if you are participating in a club sport, note you must get permission from your coach to make sure that they are okay. Varsity athletes, remember, it will be the head coach's decision. JV and freshman athletes, it will be allowed as long as you are meeting the requirements of contacting the school coach, getting approval, and not missing any high school sponsored practices or competitions due to club participation. And again, athletes, note, you may compete in your high school sport and practice with your club team in the same sport during the high school season without problem, as long as you have school or coach approval. If you want to compete in a non-school program in the same sport as your high school season, you must get approval from the school, and the rule change would allow up to 2 competitions, again, with school approval. Make sure if you're considering that, you do get school approval before you consider doing so. Note, the non-school restriction applies to normal non-school games as well as gimmicks, such as reduced numbers competition, 3-on-3 basketball, 6v6 soccer, fun runs, etc. Those are considered, even though they're not the same as the high school, those are considered the same as high school sponsored sporting events. 2, during the season, athletes may participate in a skills contest with approval of the school. Again, the key, with school approval. Specific skill contests, punt, pass, and kick. Shooting contests such as free throws, three-point, drive, chip, and putt for golf. Isolate separate skills outside of the traditional competition setting. The skill contests may not include physical contact or extreme fatigue as the actual sport competition. Fun runs are not considered skill contests. There can be no school coach involvement. All other eligibility rules, included amateur status, apply. 3, a student who is a member of a school team during the previous year may not delay reporting for the school team beyond the school's official opening day of practice in order to continue non-school training or competition. Note, so you cannot continue your non-school training beyond the first date of your high school sports season, whatever that starting date is. If you have questions, contact the activities coordinator. Note letter C, a student athlete and his or her parents must pay the fee for specialized training or instruction such as camp, clinics, or other programs. you must pay 100% of that specialized training or camp clinic instructional fee. Letter E, a student athlete must not participate in an all-star game or similar contest except for summertime activities. So again, all-star game participation is not allowed. However, some postseason all-star opportunities may be permitted for 12th graders who have completed high school eligibility in a particular sport. Check with your activities director to be certain. So again, all-star events are not allowed during your high school season or career, with the exception being 12th graders. There may be some opportunities available as long as you have completed eligibility in a particular sport. But again, contact the activities coordinator with any questions you have. Note, on the bottom of page 4 of the eligibility bulletin, the parent-athlete rules of eligibility sign-off form, you do not have to turn that in. By turning in the agreement at parent-athlete form, you are meeting that requirement. Again, some additional appendices to be aware of as parents and student-athletes. After the eligibility bulletin, you'll find the WIAA banned and performance-enhancing substance list. Please review that list. Any item on the ban list is not allowed to be used by a student-athlete, or it is considered a violation of the district's code of conduct violation. Please note the discouraged substances as well. If you have questions about any substance that you may be considering taking, check the list to make sure that it's not banned or discouraged. And 2, I encourage you to talk with your healthcare professional to make sure you are fully aware of any possible effects that may result of taking any additional supplement. But again, please make sure you've checked the performance enhancing and banned substance list to make sure the item is not banned and or discouraged. If your child has to take an item on this list due to it being prescribed by a medical professional, please make us aware of that as a school, as that will be allowable for that student athlete as long as it has been legally prescribed by an MD. The next appendix is a parent's guide to concussions. Again, we've covered in earlier slides that a concussion is a brain injury, so it's very, very serious. And I mentioned our coaches are instructed, when in doubt, to sit the student athlete out. Note on page 2 of the parent's guide to concussion, there are the signs and symptoms of a concussion. And note, once a student athlete is diagnosed with a concussion, the athlete must be cleared by an appropriate healthcare professional before he or she is allowed to return to play or participation in games or performances. Note, there will be a progression for the student athlete to have to follow in order to get back to full participation. So again, parents, please use this concussion guide as a resource, and never, student athletes, ever try to hide the signs or symptoms regarding a concussion. It is a brain injury, a very serious thing. If you have any doubt at all, make sure your child sees our athletic trainer. The next appendix is from the National Federation of High Schools, and it's regarding hazing. What is hazing? The National Federation defines hazing as any humiliating or dangerous activity expected of a student to belong to a group, regardless of their willingness to participate. Some practices associated with high school hazing carry the potential for serious bodily harm or even death. These practices may include tattooing, piercing, head shaving, branding, sleep deprivation, physical punishment, paddling or red bellying, kidnapping, consuming unreasonable, unacceptable foods or beverages, being deprived of personal hygiene, and or inappropriate sexual behavior. Hazing, bullying is completely unacceptable, and it is illegal. It is not tolerated at Oshkosh West High School. If you are a student athlete and feel you are you have been hazed and or being bullied, please inform your coach immediately. Please inform a member of the school administration. Please contact Officer Moss. It is not accepted, not tolerated, and it is illegal. Parents and students, victims of hazing may hide the true cause of their injuries if they are injured. A student who is being hazed may exhibit excessive fatigue, appear disheveled, or wear odd clothing. They may isolate themselves from family and friends, skip missed classes due to lack of sleep at night, and or feel depressed. If you hear about Help Week or initiation, it may be wise to ask the student questions to find out exactly what is going on. Student athletes, please be an 11. Do the right thing, set an example, inspire others to be the best, raise the bar. If you see any behavior that you feel may be borderline hazing or bullying, put a stop to it. Step in, let the other know that that is not acceptable and will not be tolerated. Talk with your coaches. Talk with school administration. We want a culture here that keeps all students safe, and we want a welcoming and team-oriented culture. Note, on the last couple pages of the hazing information, there are some myths and realities. Note, hazing can seriously injure. A myth is newcomers want to be hazed. Reality, no one wants to be abused, humiliated, or embarrassed. Another hazing myth. We only haze a little. It's really not that bad. Reality, that's like saying, hey, I only steal a little bit. I'm not really a thief. Another myth. If we eliminate hazing, our members will just be like everybody else. The reality, a truly well-organized, positive program results in initiates who are eager to work for and help the group and who can better serve as leaders. Myth. If new members don't respect our principles or us, we haze them until they improve. The reality, hazing a new member makes the situation worse. Just like other forms of victimization, hazing breeds mistrust, apathy, and alienation, not respect. Myth. Hazing activities are only methods we have of controlling the new members. The reality, there are positive and negative ways to bring people into the fold. Accountability should be the same for new members and ongoing members. Myth. I went through it, so now the new members have to go through it. Reality, it only takes one group of veterans to break this so-called tradition. The people who founded your group were not hazed. Why treat today's new members differently? Again, set the tone, create a culture that is inviting and welcoming. And parents, the last 2 pages in our co-curricular handbook, there's a positive sport parenting assessment tool. I strongly encourage you to take that self-assessment honestly. And the inside back cover is a tool for you to score your self-assessment to see where you fall on the parent assessment or parenting spectrum. If you feel you need additional work in that area, the NFHS website, Learning Center, is there. And on that website, there's a free course that you can take about parenting and sport. Some additional information for student athletes and parents to be aware of. If you have aspirations of competing in athletics beyond high school at the collegiate level, the NCAA Eligibility Center is an organization you need to be familiar with. Have a conversation with your guidance counselor as soon as possible if you have aspirations of competing at the collegiate level. If you end up at a NCAA Division I or II institution, there are a specific number of academic core areas that you must have taken. So you want to make sure you are on the right academic path right away during your high school career. And also, you want to make sure that you register with the NCAA eligibility, as that will be a requirement that you must do once you graduate from high school. You will have to have been cleared by the Eligibility Center. If you are a transfer student, meaning you are a new student to the Oshkosh Area School District at Oshkosh West High School, it is imperative that you make contact with me at the email address or phone number found below, or hopefully you'll find me at an eligibility meeting for the sport your child is participating in, as there are a number of things we need to go through to make sure that your child is going to be able to get eligibility to participate in athletics here at Oshkosh West, because we consider all transfer students ineligible until cleared by the athletic office. Locker room information. The Oshkosh West Athletic Department will supply locks for the lockers in the boys and girls varsity locker rooms. All varsity athletes are welcome and able to get a locker in the varsity locker room. Athletes, you must lock up your valuables at all times. Use the lock that is provided to you from the athletic department. If you don't lock up your valuables, even for a short time, there is the potential, unfortunately, that some of your valuables may get taken. The best deterrent to items being taken or stolen is to lock up your valuables. Even if you're going to the locker room, even if you're going into the gym, even if you're leaving for a minute, lock up your items at all times. And if any of your items are taken, please report that to Officer Moss, our school liaison officer, your coach, and the athletic director as soon as possible. Athletes, please police the locker room. Keep an eye out for others. Any behavior that shouldn't be taking place in the locker room, please inform us of it immediately. And athletes, when your season is over, even if you're going out for the next season, you need to clean out your locker by the predetermined announced deadline. Failure to do so will result in your items being removed, bagged, and stored so that we can get the lockers clean for the next sports season. Again, even if you're a multiple sport athlete, you may have to have your locker changed, so we ask that you clean out your locker or get permission from the athletic department office for you to be able to keep that same locker. But again, when you hear that deadline, clean out your locker. Parents and student athletes, we are in the process of renovating and improving the Oshkosh West weight room. On this slide is a website that I strongly encourage you to visit, OshkoshWestWeightRoom.com. On that website, we tell our story about why we are looking to raise $80,000 to purchase new flooring and new equipment for the weight room. It is a wonderful, informative website that tells our story, shares the data on why the need for our weight room. There's a link to show the new concept that we are trying to raise money for, as well as a donation link where you can donate online directly through the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation to help us reach our goal of raising $80,000. We are going to need your help throughout the course of this school year to raise this amount of funds. We have a donor recognition program that will be very visibly appealing to people outside of the weight room in the hallway by door number 20. You will get emailed, parents, a number of times throughout the course of this school year with an informational email that we will be asking you to share with family, friends, alumni, employers, and any other organizations that you are a part of to try to get the word out about our project. Again, we want to make this happen this school year. The Oshkosh West Booster Club has made a commitment of $12,000 this year, so we were able to knock out the wall. And additional funding has been set aside for purchasing of the new floor. But we really need now, we're at a point where we need to raise the funds to purchase the actual new equipment. If you have an employer and or organization that you feel a presentation to would be helpful for them to consider making a donation, I would be more than happy to come in and give that presentation. Please contact me at the email address or phone number on the cover of the Co-Curricular Handbook. And please help us utilize social media to get the word out, to help us reach our goal. Our campaign slogan is "Help us raise the bar at Oshkosh West High School." Thank you for your support and consideration. I also want to just share a few items regarding the Oshkosh West Boosters Club. Parents, the Oshkosh West Booster Club supports all of the athletic programs and some of our activities here at Oshkosh West High School. They meet the first Wednesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. in the O Room. We would love to have you come to a meeting, get involved with the Oshkosh West Booster Club. As I mentioned previously, they gave $12,000 this year to our Oshkosh West Weight Room project, and they gave an additional $31,000 this past school year to our athletic programs and some other activities here at Oshkosh West High School. We have a number of fundraisers during the course of the school year. One of which will be the fall golf outing. The other biggest fundraiser that we have is the concession stand, where we will be asking and assigning sports to work a number of times each school sports season, meaning fall, winter, and spring. Typically, sports are assigned no more than 2 events during the course of each season. When you get that call, please step forward, help out, and work in the concession stand. It's donating your time to help your child's program. Also, we participate in the Battle on Bagel ice fishing event in the winter. We will be asking for volunteers to help with that. Please consider stepping forward. And also, we help a little bit with the summer Battle on Bagel fishing event as well. Again, as a parent, your help is needed to work concessions during the school year. The expectation is that everybody takes a turn and works in the concession stand at least once during the school year. So when that email or phone call comes, please work. And again, please consider getting involved in the Oshkosh West Booster Club. It's a wonderful organization that does a lot to promote and financially fund our programs here at Oshkosh West High School, the first Wednesday of every month at 6:30 in the O Room. Again, that will conclude the 2016-17 Oshkosh West High School Online Athletic Code meeting. Please be sure when you are done to fill out the form below this video and then hit the submit button. That will satisfy the requirement for you of having viewed this video. If you do not fill out the form and hit submit, you will not be entered into the database that I review that shows that you viewed and completed the online code of conduct. Also, again, the things you need to turn in to be eligible to begin practice in the particular sport or sports you are participating in. 1, a valid physical form each and every school year. This year's physical date is April 1 of 2015 or later. 2, an alternate year card if necessary. That's the little white half sheet. You will be given that form if we know your physical is between April 1 of 2015 and March 31st of 2016, or you may be given that form as a safeguard if we didn't know the date of your exam because you were up for a physical. Just turn it in, fill it out as well, just to be on the safe side. You will need to turn in the fluorescent green Agreement of Parent and Athlete form. That form will need to be signed on the front by both the parent and student athlete. Parents, make sure you flip over and sign and date the back of that form. That will need to be turned in. You also need to turn in the completed concussion acknowledgement form. It's a white form. Parents and students, you must sign and date the top sheet, rip it off. You keep the concussion informational packet. Also, if you are a freshman or junior, you will be impact tested this year if you are in a contact sport. If so, please complete and turn in the impact testing permission form. That is a yellow form. There will be informational letters from Affinity regarding concussions in the sports information program here. Those are yours to keep. Finally, there are 2 forms, one pink and one goldenrod, that list the Oshkosh West Athletic Department vision and core values and the Wildcat Creed. You keep the goldenrod form, and if you're willing to live the creed, model it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, sign off and date the pink form and turn that in as well. This is an optional activity. It is the direction we're going, and only turn it in, student athletes, if you're willing to live, model, and breathe the creed. Again, if you have a question about anything that's been covered in this online presentation or anything in regard to the Oshkosh Area School District Co-Curricular Handbook, please contact myself, Brad Jadarski, the Activities Coordinator. My email address and phone number is found on the front of the Co-Curricular Handbook. And students, I'm located in the high school main office. Make it a great 2016-17 school year. Get involved, make a difference, be an 11, raise the bar, go Wildcats.